So welcome all, and today we are going to start a new subsection, that is Shift 2, and the subtitle is Stop Stacking Your Meetings. Stop stacking your meetings. Okay. Yesterday we have discussed about stop thinking as an employee. We have learned to cultivate the owner, how to take the ownership and do the task. Even though we are not a real owner, we can presume as an owner, and by that way we can build the ownership
qualities, leadership
qualities, and then we can lead actually our life or our that position actually we can get beforehand only by embracing this particular quality. And today let's see what is there in this particular quality. So one of you can start reading this.
Yes, Pikashi, may I?
Sure, Sumanji.
Shift 2, stop stacking your meeting. Start scheduling thinking meeting. If you are in a church, a small business, or working in a corporation, you may get sucked into multitude of meetings. It is the natural gravitational pull of any organization. My favorite description of this comes from the 4 Disciplines of Execution by Chris McKenzie, Sean Covey, and Jim Hewlin. The authors describe this gravitational pull toward business as the whirlwind. The whirlwind is described as the massive amount of energy needed to simply keep your operation going on a day-to-day basis. When I think of the whirlwind, the first thing that comes to mind are the countless meetings that show up on my calendar. Sometimes numerous meetings just start to appear. After a while, you start wondering, do I run my calendar or does my calendar run me? The worst is,
Yes, that's very practical question, that situation that many faces actually. Yeah, let's continue.
The worst is having a stack of meetings back to back. While this can seem efficient, it can also be an enemy of critical thinking. I will get to the end of my day and realize I have generated no new thoughts, no new ideas. I have only been reacting to circumstances and solving problems. If you find yourself constantly in that mode, you need to reclaim control of your life. You need to stop stacking meetings and start scheduling time to think critically. You will never develop as a leader. I missed the line.
If you cannot master this.
Yes, if you cannot master this, why do my best ideas come to me in the shower? I feel like my IQ is at least 20 points higher while lathering up than at any other times of the day. And I am not alone in finding my light bulb moments there. Cognitive psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman says that 72% of people get creative ideas in the shower. That is because thinking critically requires uninterrupted mental space. It is not just showering that creates these times of clarity. Mowing the grass, taking a walk, driving to work, or pausing long enough to look, observe, and connect the dots bring the space necessary to think clearly. If you are going from meeting to meeting, you will not have that space. You need to carve it out, or your leadership will suffer. I am not.
Thank you, Sumanji. Let's give opportunity to Rameshji to continue.
I'm not suggesting that you shower between meetings. Though I do think you would find more creativity in your ideas throughout the day if you did. And you'd be so fresh and so. Thanks, big boy. I am, however, going to suggest that you schedule space to think critically, marking it down like a meeting at points throughout the day. About 5 years ago, I started spacing out my meetings, those I could control, with more intentionality. My efficient nature wanted my meetings to end at the top of the hour and the next meeting to start 60 seconds later. But I knew I was worse off for doing this. Efficiency wasn't leading to effectiveness. I found there were a number of negative consequences. First, I was constantly late for meetings. Second, I wasn't fully present in any of the meetings. I was physically there, but I found myself processing the previous meeting and also thinking about the next one. Going from meeting to meeting caused the air traffic control of my brain to be fuzzy and distorted. I was preoccupied, distant, and mentally absent. Worst of all, I had no space to think clearly. I made two changes. I began to schedule space between meetings, short spots of downtime for me to think. I also forced myself to get to work earlier. When I was in my 20s, I remember sitting with mentors who told me what time they arrived at work. It was ungodly and seemed impossible. Then, one day, something in me clicked, and I realized I would never be able to add value if I didn't add in time. If I didn't add in time to think. Getting to work earlier helps me have that additional time. And scheduling time between meetings to think critically has enabled me to improve the quality of all my contributions to those meetings. The greatest enemy of thinking critically is an overcrowded schedule. Again, own your calendar or your calendar will own you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ramesh. So let me start from here. The step 3. Stop being critical. Start thinking critically. Being critical is negative, while thinking critically is definitely a positive move and a very good trait of thinking. So let's discover what is it. The most dangerous outcome of thinking critically is that subtle pull you feel to become a critical person. That subtle pull you feel to become a critical person. There are times that line between being critical and thinking critically is razor thin. I have known some cynical, negative people who excuse their attitudes and behaviors trying to pass them off as critical thinking. This is very tricky actually. They might think that they are doing the critical thinking, but they're actually negative and they will just find fault finding attitude. To show other person as
something lower than them.
Lower than them, yeah. I can hear the cacophony of excuses. Cacophony of excuses. If you cannot handle feedback, don't ask. How we ever going to get better if you do not face the truth? Sorry, if you can't handle it, I'm just speaking the truth. If thinking critically is a skill, being critical is a snare. And I am choosing the word snare for a reason. I bumped into this word while preaching on Proverbs 29:25, verse 25. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. I love this axiom from King Solomon, and I have learned to love the word snare. And I have learned to love the word snare. But what did Solomon mean? The Bible knowledge commentary says it well to fear men and, and snares in the sense that one's actions are controlled or confined by the person who is dread. You do not mean to get caught in a snare. You just did not plan to avoid getting caught in it. I know that many young leaders do not want to be critical. They do not sit around planning to be cynics, but they still get caught in the trap. Every time I talk about critical thinking with leaders, I ask this question: what is the key difference between someone who is critical and someone who is critical thinker? After a few moments, someone shouts out, my favorite answer, motive. What is a motive? Like you want to showcase the other person is um, down or lower than you, or you want to actually show a different perspective. I think that is what actually defines the motive. Let's see what author is saying. People who are critical wants you to lose. Yes, very true. They are motivated to tear something down. They do not offer constructive criticism. They deconstruct. They are bringing problems, not solutions. This is also not right. They are critical. When I point out something wrong with you to make me feel better about me, I am being critical. People who are great critical thinkers want you to win. Very, very important. They want you to win, so they show a different perspective. In relationship also, this need to be remembered. People who are great critical thinkers, they want you to win. They are motivated to make something better. Yes, they may deconstruct, but it is for the betterment of others. This deconstructed betterment for the others, for betterment of others. They do not even care about the credit. It is a very, very important part of it. They do not even care about the credit. When I point out something wrong with what you are doing, because I think I see a better way for you, I am thinking critically to serve you. When I point out something wrong with what you are doing, because I think I see a better way for you, I am thinking critically to serve you. I am thinking critically to serve you, to help you.
That was very powerful.
Yes. But many times actual people want credit, then that is not critical thinking.
Yes.
People
Precisely.
want to win over the argument. That is why they show the negative part of it. That is also not critical thinking. It is critically thinking. It is a critical thinking or negative.
Yeah. Being critical about somebody else. Actually, this word is very powerful because when you say last line, when you read thinking critically to serve you, I suddenly realized that that is a key word for us to also remember. Sometimes we can also become critical. Suppose the other person is critical of us, it's very easy for us to also slip into that framework of being, giving it back and being critical towards the other person, just to, ensure that they don't win against you. But I think if we are genuinely serving them, then it will go a step further and say that, look, it's not about me not wanting to get hurt, but also let's make the situation better for everybody. So that makes gives it a completely different. It's very powerful, actually. I suddenly realized, yes, I have to keep this in perspective personally.
Right.
Yes, otherwise, generally, we are trying to satisfy our own ego mostly.
Yeah, yeah. Because I try to avoid pulling others down, at least consciously, wherever possible. But sometimes some people are so strong at trying to pull me down, and it can even be domestically at home.
Mm.
They might be doing it with a light heart, light-hearted way also. But
Mm.
then at that time, it's very easy. I can also get sucked into it and
Mm.
try to echo them and reflect what they're doing and give it back to them. And then I
Mm.
realize nowadays that I don't have to. I can just look at what is the best option for both, or
Mm.
how to serve them also to become happier or better. And that
Mm.
itself, if I just remember the word serve, it will completely change the way I respond. So for me, it is a
Yes,
very powerful word. Yeah.
correct. Very
Because
true. And
I will really
it's,
respond from a higher consciousness perspective then.
yeah. And at times, just letting go also is also okay.
Yeah.
And that gives us the space to see things in a different perspective. And
Yes.
maybe that also helps to think critically.
Yes. Correct.
And that when the emotions subdue, that time we can show the different perspective to the other person, but not at the same time.
Yeah, that's excellent. Actually, yes. I think that also I have to observe what is my state of equipoise.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Both parties, not only yours. When both parties become equipoised, that time only
Yes.
suggest the critical, means after doing the critical thinking, what inference we are getting, that we can suggest only when both the parties are in a good mood.
Hmm.
Then it will work. Otherwise, they might think that we are not doing critical thinking critically, but we are critical thinkers. They might also think in
Yeah,
at that particular point of time. Fault finding.
so just to clarify, critical thinking, I mean, being critical of somebody else, that is very clear what it is.
Hmm.
But critical thinking is when you examine and deconstruct a situation and look at the details to try and put into perspective the best the option for everybody, isn't it?
No,
As per God's will.
just the other way around. You are saying about the critical thinkers, right?
No, see, people who are critical of others are
Huh.
generally fault finding and try to pull the other person down
Yes,
to
yes,
make themselves feel better.
yes.
That is being critical of somebody else. But
Hmm.
critical thinkers, just to
Thinking
understand,
critically. Huh.
yeah,
Thinking.
thinking critically is when you deconstruct or disassemble the various components of the situation to try
Hmm.
and address it so for the best everyone's good, isn't it?
Yes, very true. But
That is what it
however,
is,
that
right?
also involves some kind of negative, uh, not negative, actually, not very positive aspect you might not show. You might show
Yeah,
that it might not work. And that is
yeah,
as part of the
yeah,
critical thinking,
yeah.
thinking critically. Thinking critically also gives us that opportunity to see the other perspective, how it will not work, but
Hmm.
for a good, for the
Outcome.
good of the other person or the
Yes.
outcome, overall outcome.
Yeah. But we have
Here,
to be
this
careful.
word actually is very important. Being critical. We need
Yeah.
not to change our state of being to be
Yeah.
critical. We can just, this thinking is a faculty that we have. That faculty we will use to think critically.
Yeah.
Not, we will not as a person be
Critical.
in critical mode.
Right. Right. That
Just
is
for
powerful.
analysis purposes only.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yes, correct. Yes. For unbiased analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. That means it's very important to also communicate at that time, to be in a position where being appropriate to who you're talking to. Some people, for example, they might have such strong filters based on their past experiences that the moment they find somebody disagreeing with them, they will switch into war mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think how to keep our equipoise and be kind and communicate this appropriately will ensure then that people will also receive our good intentions properly.
Yeah.
And the funny thing I found is it also is linked to your prarabdha karma, because initially when we start doing good, I've observed that those like they say, from the deep, dark, murky waters, all the toxins come to the surface. For example, when your body relaxes, the mind starts relaxing during meditation, and then all these thoughts start coming up. And it is not random, actually. It seems, if you look at transcendental meditation, the logic they used makes so much of sense that the moment you relax, then from the deep, murky depths of your consciousness, not murky, but from the depths of your consciousness, all these thoughts come up because they're related to your prarabdha karma. So initially, when you're doing good or when you start doing good, then it may be misunderstood or mistaken, things like that. Till you wash off some of your prarabdha, at least 50% or some such, then it will start showing, very obvious results where it will be received in that manner that you intend it to be received.
Yeah.
Self purification is a part of this process.
Yes. Yes. So,
It's quite fascinating. Yeah.
so we will start the shift 4 tomorrow. Stop giving others a grade. Start lending them a hand. This also looks very powerful, and that's the last shift. Then we will move to the power of the towel.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And chapter 7. These two paragraphs we can complete tomorrow.
To reject passively. That reject passively reminds me of what you just now said. When you said
Mhm.
sometimes just a silence or even a smile can
Mhm.
convey a lot more than giving it back or arguing or whatever.
True. Very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great then. Thank you for
Okay.
joining.
Yes.
See you all
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Thank you so much.